Behind the Mirror of Music with Danny Cohen.
Hello, and welcome to Behind the Mirror of Music. My name is Danny Cohen. Today's guest is Hans Peter Janssens. Hans Peter Janssens is known as a classic European phantom, both in the Netherlands and Belgium in The Phantom of the Opera, and for being the only actor to play the roles of Jean Valjean and Javert in Les Miserables on the West End. He also starred in rare Dutch-language versions of Jekyll and Hyde, Sweeney, Todd, and Tanz the Vampire. Also Man of Mancha and Evita, Ben in Follies, and many more. I hope you will enjoy the show.
So,
How are
you're a fan?
Yes, I am. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
What are you up to right now?
Well, right now I'm sort of preparing for the beginning of a new season, I guess. There's just some smaller concerts happening already, of course, with limited audiences inside. And so I'm preparing for a few of those in the near future, and for the rest preparing other stuff for further down the road.
When did you know you wanted to be in musical theatre?
When? God. I think because I started with a classical training. I'm trained classically as an opera singer. So I did that first also in the UK. And it's probably when after that I did an audition for a musical for the Man of La Mancha in Belgium. And I think it's only after that because I just wanted to try that repertoire, and I ended up in the cast. And I think after that it sort of happened pretty fast for me. I got the lead in Chess and then in Phantom of the Opera. I think when I joined Phantom of the Opera, I think then that was a moment for me to really decide, okay, I'm going to continue down this road.
Okay, and what's the difference for you between opera singing and musical theatre singing?
Well, mainly it's a technical thing. It's a technical thing. It's that if you're singing operatically, you have to project your voice much more because you're not amplified. There's no microphone, so it's a different way of singing. But I do think that in musical theatre you can. It's much more easy to show emotions, to work with your emotions, because it's much closer to straight acting than opera is. So, but for me, technically, it's a technical matter.
You were a phantom in the Netherlands and Belgium. How was this time for you?
But of course, the first time I did it in Holland, it was for me that was huge, because I've never experienced anything on that scale before in musical theatre. So it was like the Valhalla, and well, I got the opportunity to do both Phantom and Rouse. So for me, it was sort of it was an amazing thing, and also I got the time to actually learn to become a musical theatre singer. When I did it in Belgium, I think it was more stressful, because then it was in my own country, and I that people expect so much of that production and of that character. So it was a bit more stressful, but of course I enjoyed it very much because I was able to do it in my own country.
How did you approach the character of Eric the Phantom?
My approach was, of course, I read all the original stories about it, and just before I did. Before I did the Belgian version, I had already done it, of course, in Holland, and then I had done Jekyll and Hyde in between, and that sort of created a sort of a diabolical figure for me, and I think I took it from there.
Okay. Yeah, so the next question was about Jekyll and Hyde. Were you the first to do it in the Dutch translation?
Well, the thing was, when we created it in Belgium, it was actually the European premiere we had in Belgium, and we didn't have to create the same version as they did on Broadway, because before the show came on Broadway, our director, Lina Lepom, was able to get the rights to do the show in Belgium, but before it went to Broadway, so we could make our own version of it. So that's what made it very special. And of course, for me, it's one of the most amazing parts I've ever been able to play.
You also were the first singer to be Jean Valjean and Javert on the West End.
Yes.
How did that feel to be both characters and to be on the West End itself?
Well, when Les Mis came to Belgium, I actually was planning to audition for Javert, because I felt that Javert was much closer to who I am as a character and the sort of characters that I normally play. But it was a director over here in Belgium who sort of told me that I should go for Valjean, which was for me then more of a challenge, of course, because being a baritone, Valjean is technically much harder. But I went for that and I got the part. And then when I was able to do it in London, it was really strange, because I had sang Valjean in London for 3 years in a row, and then after that, Ken Caswell, the director in London, asked me, would it be a good idea to try and go for Javert as well, which for me was actually it felt normal to do that, because the character has always been very close to me, but Valjean as well. So it was quite normal for me to do both really. But the idea of been able to do both as a first cast on the West End was for me, it was a great honor, just a great honor to be able to do that.
Why do you prefer Javert to Jean Valjean in acting?
Well, that's the question everybody asks me. It's difficult, because it's like the same with Phantom. If you've done Phantom, after a while you want to do something else, and if you've done Valjean, after a while you feel like you want to do Javert, and if you've done Javert a long time, you sort of want to go back to Phantom or Valjean. Those three parts are very closely connected, I feel. But I always felt that for me, Valjean was more of a challenge, acting-wise. I can't really say I prefer one to the other, but I do feel that Javert was more easy to do it, because there's not as much vocally. It's less of a challenge.
What was it like to be the first actor to do a Tanz der Vampire in the Dutch?
Was I the first? I don't even know that. That was. I actually came back to Belgium especially to do that, because when I finished Javert on the West End, I think in 2010, I actually came back especially for Dance of the Vampires, because I've done a few vampire parts. I've done Dracula the musical. I feel like all those parts, like Jekyll and Hyde, like Dracula, like Dance of the Vampire, those sort of characters are very good for me, because I feel it's a very physical way of acting as well, and I like that. I like to be pushed to my limits, and I think in those parts you really need to do that.
Absolutely. You have performed in many musicals. Which one was your absolute favorite?
I don't know. The really favorite, I don't think it's difficult to say, because there's so many. But I think the ones we're talking about now are probably the favorite. It's like Les Mis, Phantom, and that's it really, I think. But Jekyll and Hyde might be probably just ahead of all that, because of the vocal challenge and physical challenge, and especially the transition between Jekyll and Hyde, because you have to be able to do that not only in your acting but also with your voice. You have to sort of find two voices for yourself, and that has probably been the biggest challenge I've ever had.
A lot of people say Jekyll and Hyde is very hard vocally, especially because of the transitions. Does it damage your voice if you do it too long, or do you have a technique that helps? I
think I have, because I have a classical training. There's always, even if I don't think about it, there's always the technique helps, because you do need it, because it's a big strain on your voice. But I can imagine if you want to do 8 in a row, that would be, well, quite impossible probably, because it all depends on the voice. But when we did it, I think we did about 5 shows at the most on tour in a week, and that probably was about the limit. So I think if you do 8 shows in a week, you probably definitely need an alternate, because it is a stress. If you really want to go for it and do it very well, then you have to push yourself, and then it just depends on how quickly your voice can come back after that. But when I was younger, that sort of worked. It might be more difficult now, but I've actually sang it quite recently, a couple of years ago, again, in a local theatre here in Antwerp, and I have to say that it felt very good to do it, and it was all still there, and the voice does recover quite quickly if you use technique.
Is there a role you still wish to do or wish you could have done?
But there's a few coming up. So well, the thing was that the very first musical I started was The Man of La Mancha. That was actually for me the moment of making the transition from opera to musical theatre. And in The Man of La Mancha, I was the priest. That was my very first part. And now in April next year, I'm going to be the Man of La Mancha. So I think that's, for me, is a great challenge, and it's sort of like the circle is around that. But that's definitely a part I want to do, and I will be doing quite soon.
It's a wonderful show. I think it's very underrated, because it has such amazing music and a very important story.
Yeah, very, very underrated. I just feel people should do it much more. But we've done it a few times here. Well, then 20 years ago we did, actually more. It was in about 25 already, God. But I don't know if you know Jacques Brel, the famous Belgian singer. He did it as well, the French version in Belgium. Yeah, it's an honor to be next.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, during our interview, there was no time to discuss Hans Peter's time as Sweeney Todd in Stephen Sondheim's legendary musical. He later messaged me his thoughts on the role. Sweeney has become one of my favorite roles to play. Like with all other dark characters that I played, Phantom, Dracula, Krollock, I felt I really came alive, both as an actor and as a singer. For me, personally, it's always about pushing your boundaries, each performance, both vocally and physically, to make the portrayal credible. I believe it needs that energy every single performance to do Sweeney justice. It was hard work, but totally worth it, especially after being awarded a musical award Best Male Lead for my Sweeney. After Follies, this was my second Sondheim musical, but hopefully not the last.
Do you have a message for musical theatre fans?
Mm-hmm. Me?
Yes.
A message?
Yeah.
For the fans?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna keep coming. That's all I can say. Keep buying tickets, and I know it's a difficult time now, but I think we need all the fans we can get in the near future, so all of this can survive, really.
Is there anything you want to tell about a special moment or amazing memory from your career that will always stay with you?
Well, that's probably my opening night in London as Valjean, because for me it was I'm not a very nervous person, but on that particular day, it was there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of stress, and that's sort of a moment that you never forget. And afterwards, we sort of celebrated in the Belgian embassy after that, and it was a very special moment, because, of course, especially for people in Belgium, the West End is like, it's the Valhalla, and it is the Valhalla of musical theatre. So to be able to do that there, and actually altogether for 6 years, because I was in London for 6 years, 3 years Valjean, 3 years Javert. Well, it was an amazing feeling.
Did you ever think you could stay on the West End, do more roles there?
I never did actually. No, I also never thought, oh, I should be on Broadway or something. I just enjoyed my time there because altogether because I studied in England as well and then at opera. I've lived in London for about 10 years. But it was always my idea to be able to come back really and do stuff over here and never lose that connection. And with Brexit, I made the right decision.
That's true. Do you have any hopes and dreams for the future in life or career-wise?
Well, I always felt that I would be happy if I can live, that I can make a living doing what I like. And up to now, that's been working quite all right. So I just hope that this continues for quite a few many years yet.
Thank you so much. It's great talking to you.
All right. Great talking to you. Bye.
Bye.
Behind the Mirror of Music with Danny Cohen.